The colony vessel Wanderer's Hope drifted through the black ocean of space like a seed carried on cosmic winds. Inside the agricultural bay, 8-year-old Danny Ortiz sat cross-legged on the floor watching Brutus tear apart a training dummy made of old canvas and rope. The honey badger attacked the object with single-minded fury, shaking it back and forth until stuffing exploded everywhere. Rachel Ortiz looked up from her data tablet and smiled at the mess. Her son had found an unusual best friend during their 2-year journey from Earth, but she could not imagine Danny without the stocky, little animal anymore. "He really hates that dummy," Danny said, grinning as Brutus dragged the remains under a storage shelf. "Honey badgers are natural fighters," Rachel explained, making notes about Brutus's behavior. Back on Earth, they fought off lions and hyenas. Nothing scared them. Danny had heard the stories many times, but never got tired of them. His mother worked as the ship's xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms they might encounter. But right now, her main job involved caring for the Earth animals they brought along. The colony needed livestock and working animals for their new home. The conservation animals, including Brutus, came along to preserve species from their dying planet. Most kids on the ship had cats or dogs. Danny got a honey badger because Brutus's mother died during the launch, and the orphan kit needed constant care. Rachel brought him home as a temporary solution. That was 2 years ago. Now Brutus followed Danny everywhere, slept at the foot of his bed, and treated the boy like his own family. "Mom, will there be other animals on the new planet?" Danny asked. "We don't know yet. We'll find out in a few months when we arrive." The ship carried 400 colonists, all of them refugees from a world that could no longer support human life. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, and scientists hoping to start fresh on a planet the old survey probes said could sustain them. Captain Harris led them with quiet confidence, making sure everyone stayed busy and hopeful during the long journey. Brutus emerged from under the shelf and waddled over to Danny, climbing into his lap despite weighing almost 30 pounds. The badger's thick gray and black fur felt coarse under Danny's hands. Brutus made a huffing sound and closed his eyes, content after destroying his toy. "He trusts you completely," Rachel said softly. "That's rare for his species. Honey badgers usually stay solitary." "I trust him too," Danny replied, scratching behind Brutus's small, rounded ears. The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Attention, all personnel. Unknown vessel detected on long-range sensors. This is not a drill. All colonists, please remain calm and await further instructions." Rachel's face went pale. They had traveled through empty space for so long that finding another ship felt impossible. The probability of encountering anyone in the vast darkness between stars was essentially zero. "Come on, Danny. Bring Brutus. We need to get to the science section." They hurried through the corridors as other families emerged from their quarters looking worried. Nobody expected to meet anyone out here. The colony ship had basic communication equipment, but almost no weapons. There were farmers and families, not soldiers in the science section. Rachel pulled up the sensor data on her terminal while Danny sat in the corner with Brutus. The honey badger sensed the tension in the air and stayed alert, his small dark eyes watching the doorway. "It's big," Rachel whispered, studying the readings. "Much bigger than our ship." Captain Harris's voice came through the intercom again, and this time Danny heard the strain in it. "Unknown vessel is approaching at high speed. We are attempting to establish communication. All non-essential personnel should move to the interior sections away from the hull." Other scientists crowded around Rachel's terminal, all of them staring at the impossible readings. The unknown ship was not just big, it was armed. The sensors detected weapon signatures that made their simple colony vessel look like a child's toy. "Are they friendly?" someone asked. Nobody had an answer. Danny hugged Brutus closer. The honey badger's muscles felt tense and ready beneath his fur. Back on Earth, Brutus's ancestors survived by being tougher than everything that tried to kill them. They fought venomous snakes, angry bees, and predators 3 times their size. They never backed down from anything. Rachel knelt beside her son and put a hand on his shoulder. "Stay close to me, okay? Everything will be fine. But Danny saw the fear in her eyes. He had never seen his mother scared before. The lights flickered as the unknown vessel pulled alongside them. Through the viewport, Danny glimpsed something huge and dark sliding past, blocking out the stars. It looked nothing like their rounded colony ship. This vessel was angular and sharp, designed for violence. Brutus growled low in his throat, a sound Danny had only heard when the Badger faced serious threats during training exercises. The hair on the back of Brutus's neck stood up in a ridge. Then the alarms started screaming. The massive warship filled every viewport on the Wanderer's Hope like a metal predator circling wounded prey. Its hull was covered in rough plating that looked like scales, and weapon ports glowed with a sickly orange light. Captain Harris stood in the command center, trying to make sense of the situation. 20 years of space travel had not prepared him for this moment. They had gone searching for hope and found something that wanted to take it away. Incoming transmission, the communications officer said, her voice shaking. The main screen flickered and showed a face that would haunt Harris for the rest of his life. The alien's head resembled a reptile's, with overlapping plates instead of smooth skin. Its eyes were vertical slits that reflected the light like polished coins. Rows of sharp teeth filled a mouth that looked designed for tearing meat. "I am Commander Vrask of the Talon Corsairs," the creature said in perfect English, which somehow made it worse. "Your vessel has entered territory we claim. You will pay tribute. This is Captain Harris of a human colony ship, Wanderer's Hope. We are peaceful refugees seeking a new home. We mean no harm and claim no territory." Vrask's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing more of those terrible teeth. "All species claim peace when they are weak. You will provide tribute in resources and samples of your population. We require specimens to study." The word specimens hit Harris like a punch. "We are not giving you our people." "Then we will take them," Vrask replied calmly. "The Talon have ruled this region for 300 cycles. Lesser species provide what we require, or they provide entertainment as we hunt them. Choose quickly." Harris looked at his crew, seeing the same horror on every face. They had escaped a dying Earth only to encounter something worse than any nightmare. "We refuse your demands," Harris said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Leave us in peace." Vrask's reptilian features showed what might have been amusement. "Your courage is noted. Your resistance will make the hunt more satisfying." The transmission cut off. "Captain, they're launching boarding pods," the tactical officer shouted. "Multiple projectiles heading toward our hull." Harris slammed his fist on the console. "All security personnel to breach points. Get the civilians to the interior sections. Move, move, move." The colony ship shuddered as the first pod struck the hull near the cargo bay. Metal screamed as cutting tools burned through the outer plating. Then another impact rocked the science section, and a third hit near the living quarters. Rachel grabbed Danny and ran toward the back of the science section, where storage rooms offered some protection. Other scientists and their families crowded into the small spaces, pulling the doors shut. "Mom, what's happening?" Danny asked, clutching Brutus against his chest. "Bad people are trying to get inside," Rachel said, hating how inadequate those words felt. "We have to hide." Through the walls came the sound of energy weapons firing. Human voices shouted warnings and then screamed. The Talon warriors moved through the ship like a plague, overwhelming the minimal security force in minutes. Rachel found a maintenance crawlspace behind a false panel and pushed Danny inside. "Stay here and stay quiet. Keep Brutus calm. What about you? I need to help the others. I'll come back for you, I promise." She sealed the panel just as the storage room door exploded inward. Rachel spun around to see 3 Talon warriors stride through the smoke. They stood over 7 feet tall, their armored bodies making them look even more massive. Each carried a weapon that crackled with contained energy. "Specimens acquired," one of them said, grabbing Rachel and 2 other scientists with mechanical efficiency. Inside the crawl space, Danny pressed his hand over his mouth to keep from crying out. Brutus trembled against him. Every muscle in the honey badger's body coiled tight. Commander Vrask entered the storage room, his scaled head nearly touching the ceiling. He looked at the captured humans with the interest of a biologist examining insects. Soft skin, dull teeth, no natural weapons. How did such a weak species develop space travel? We're smarter than you, Rachel said, glaring at him despite her fear. Vrask laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Intelligence without strength means nothing. You are prey that learn to use tools. One of the warriors swept the room with a scanning device. The readings showed a heat signature behind the wall panel. Commander, there is something in the maintenance space. Vrask gestured, and the warrior ripped the panel away like it was paper. Danny huddled in the revealed space, his arms wrapped around Brutus. The honey badger's lips pulled back from his teeth, showing sharp canines that looked tiny compared to the alien's weapons. A juvenile, Vrask said, reaching toward Danny with one clawed hand. Prize specimens are worth more in trade. Brutus exploded forward with a snarl that filled the cramped space. His teeth caught Vrask's reaching hand, clamping down with enough force to puncture the softer scales between the armor plates. Vrask jerked back in surprise more than pain. He looked at the small earth creature that dared to bite him, and his vertical pupils narrowed. The prey keeps pets, he said, sounding almost amused. How entertaining. The warrior who found Danny reached in to grab the boy again. Brutus released Vrask's hand and launched himself at this new threat, targeting the joints where the armor segments met. For the first time in his career, Vrask heard one of his warriors make a sound of genuine discomfort. The Talon warrior shook his arm violently, trying to dislodge the creature attached to his wrist. Brutus held on with the determination his species was famous for, his teeth grinding against the armor joint while his claws scraped for purchase on the smooth plating. "Get it off!" the warrior snarled, smashing his arm against the wall. The impact would have killed most small animals. Brutus just adjusted his grip and bit harder. Danny scrambled backward in the crawl space, his heart hammering so hard it hurt. His mother was being held by one of the monsters, and Brutus was fighting something 10 times his size. Vrask watched the struggle with growing interest. The small earth creature should have been crushed by now. Instead, it fought like something that had never learned the meaning of surrender. "What species is this animal?" "I don't know, Commander," another warrior replied, pulling out a scanning device. "It registers as mammalian. Low body mass, but its aggression level is abnormal." The first warrior finally managed to pry Brutus off and throw him across the room. The honey badger hit the floor, rolled, and was back on his feet in less than a second. Blood dripped from his mouth, but it was not his own blood that Brutus's black eyes locked onto the warrior who had tried to grab Danny. The message in those eyes was clear and simple. "You will not touch him." "Fascinating," Vrask said, crouching down to get a better look. "Such fury in such a small form. Perhaps we should take this creature as well. The combat pits would pay well for something with this spirit." Rachel felt sick. The Talon did not just capture species. They used them for entertainment, forcing beings to fight for the amusement of crowds. "Leave him alone. He's just protecting his friend." "Protection implies the protected has value," Vrask replied. "Your species is weak. What value do you possess?" Before Rachel could answer, Brutus charged again. This time he went low, sliding between the warrior's legs and raking his claws across the softer armor on the back of the knee joint. The warrior stumbled, and Brutus used the moment to leap up and latch onto the back of the creature's neck where the helmet met the armor. The warrior roared and spun in circles, reaching back with both hands to grab his attacker. Brutus twisted and bit at the warrior's fingers, targeting the joints between the armored segments. Everywhere the badger bit, he found the weak spots that armor could not fully protect. "Enough," Vrask commanded. "Stun the animal. We'll take it alive." The second warrior raised his weapon, adjusting the setting to non-lethal. The energy blast caught Brutus in the side and knocked him off the first warrior's back. The honey badger hit the floor hard this time and did not get up immediately. Danny cried out and tried to run to his friend, but Vrask caught him by the collar and lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. "No struggling, juvenile. You will come with us quietly, or we will hurt your protective creature much worse." "Put my son down," Rachel demanded, trying to pull free from the warrior holding her. Vrask examined Danny with cold, analytical eyes. You are this female's offspring? Interesting. Many species show attachment to their young. It makes them easier to control. Brutus stirred on the floor, shaking his head to clear it. The stun blast would have left most creatures unconscious for an hour. The honey badger was standing again in less than 2 minutes, though his legs wobbled slightly. Impossible, the warrior with the weapon muttered. That setting should have incapacitated it completely. Vrask set Danny down but kept a hand on his shoulder. This species has remarkable resilience. Commander Vrask, to all boarding teams. Complete specimen collection and return to the ship. We have what we came for. The warriors began herding the captured humans toward the breach point where their boarding pod waited. Rachel fought every step, trying to stay close to Danny. Other colonists were being dragged from their hiding spots throughout the ship, all of them terrified and confused. Captain Harris was shoved into the group, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. He had fought hard but stood no chance against the armored invaders. You won't get away with this. Other species will hear about what you've done. Other species already know, Vrask said. They pay tribute or they suffer. Some provide resources. Some provide specimens. A few provide both. Your species will learn its place in the order of things. Brutus followed the group at a distance, his head low and his body tense. He moved like a shadow, staying out of direct line of sight, but never taking his eyes off Danny. The warriors noticed, but did not consider him a serious threat anymore. That was their first mistake. The group reached the boarding pod, which looked like a spike of dark metal embedded in the hull of the Wanderer's Hope. The interior was all hard surfaces and restraints designed to hold captured beings. Load them, Vrask ordered. The young one and the female go in the specimen containers. The others can share the cargo hold. 2 warriors grabbed Danny, pulling him away from Rachel. She screamed and fought, but they were too strong. They dragged her son toward a cylindrical container that looked like a coffin standing upright. Brutus decided he had seen enough. The honey badger launched himself from the shadows with a sound that was part snarl and part battle cry. He hit the nearest warrior at a dead run, going for the throat with both teeth and claws extended. The warrior holding Danny dropped him immediately, both hands going his throat where Brutus clamped down with jaws that could crack bone. The honey badger's thick, loose skin meant the warrior's desperate grabbing and pulling did nothing. When predators bit Brutus, they got mouthfuls of fur and skin while the badger's actual body slid around underneath, protected by evolution's perfect armor. Brutus shook his head violently, his teeth grinding against the soft scales on the warrior's throat. The talon made a choking sound and stumbled backward, crashing into the wall of the boarding pod. Kill it, Vrask roared, no longer interested in taking the creature alive. The second warrior raised his weapon and fired. The energy blast caught Brutus in the shoulder, burning through fur and flesh. The honey badger fell off the first warrior's throat but landed on his feet, blood dripping from his wounded shoulder. Any normal animal would have retreated or collapsed. Brutus charged forward again. He went for the shooter this time, running straight at the warrior firing at him. 2 more blasts hit him, one grazing his back leg and another scorching his side. Brutus ignored the pain with the same fearlessness that let his ancestors fight off lions and eat venomous snakes for breakfast. The warrior's weapon clicked empty, the power cell exhausted from rapid firing. Brutus leaped and caught the warrior's hand, his teeth finding the gap between glove and forearm armor. The warrior screamed and dropped his weapon. Use your blade, Vrask commanded, pulling his own knife from his belt. The blade glowed with the same orange light as their weapons. 3 warriors now moved on Brutus together, coordinating their attacks. One tried to grab him from behind while the others came at him from the sides. The honey badger spun and twisted, his flexibility letting him bite at targets in every direction. His teeth found the first warrior's wrist. His claws raked across the second warrior's visor, leaving deep scratches in the supposedly unbreakable material. When the third warrior grabbed his back legs, Brutus twisted around and bit the armored fingers until they released him. Rachel watched in amazement and horror as her son's companion fought like a demon given physical form. She had studied honey badgers for years and knew their reputation. But seeing Brutus in actual combat was something else entirely. He fought with no concern for his own safety, driven by something deeper than survival instinct. He fought for Danny. Vrask stepped forward, his blade ready. Enough games. The creature dies now. The commander was faster and more skilled than his warriors. He feinted left, drew Brutus's attention, then struck from the right. The glowing blade should have ended the fight, but Brutus's loose skin saved his life again. The blade cut through fur and skin, but missed vital organs as the badger's body shifted under the strike. Brutus grabbed Vrask's knife hand with his teeth and hung on, his full weight pulling downward. For the first time, Vrask felt something he had not experienced in years. Not pain, not surprise, fear. This tiny earth creature would not stop. It would fight until it died, and maybe even after that. Every instinct Vrask possessed as a predator species told him the same thing. This was not prey. This was something else, something that refused to be hunted. Fall back to the ship, Vrask ordered, shaking Brutus loose and retreating toward the pod's entrance. Leave the specimens. We're done here. His warriors stared at him in shock. They had never retreated from any species before. Move, Vrask snarled, and his tone allowed no argument. The Talon warriors backed out of the boarding pod, keeping their eyes on Brutus. The honey badger stood in the center of the space, breathing hard, bleeding from multiple wounds, but still ready to fight. His black eyes promised that anyone who came closer would regret it. The pod detached on the Wanderer's hope with a grinding sound, leaving the colonists behind. Through the breach, they could see the massive warship pulling away. Danny ran to Brutus and dropped to his knees beside his friend. The honey badger's legs finally gave out, and he collapsed into the boy's arms. Blood matted his fur in several places, and his breathing came in labored gasps. No, Derny Sobid, holding Brutus Carefuli. You're okay. You have to be okay. Rachel rushed over, her medical training taking over despite the shock. She examined Brutus's wounds quickly, her hands steady even though her heart was breaking. Give me the medical kit. Now, Captain Harris limped forward, still processing what he had just witnessed. A 30-pound animal had driven off a boarding party of armored alien warriors. It seemed impossible, but the evidence bled in Danny's arms. Will he live? Harris asked quietly. Rachel worked on the worst wound, using synthetic skin to close the energy burns. Honey badgers are incredibly tough. If any animal can survive this, it's him. But he needs proper care. Other colonists brought medical supplies, and Rachel worked quickly to stabilize Brutus. The badger's eyes stayed open, focused on Danny's face. Even now, wounded and exhausted, Brutus watched over his boy. You saved us, Danny whispered, tears running down his face. You saved everyone. Outside the ship, the Talon warship continued to retreat. On its bridge, Vrask reviewed the helmet camera footage from his warriors, watching the small Earth creature attack again and again without fear or hesitation. Commander, should we return and finish the job? One of his officers asked. Vrask shook his head slowly, his eyes fixed on the screen. No, send a priority message to Talon High Command. We need to know more about this species before we engage them again. They're just weak mammals, the officer protested. Weak mammals do not keep predators as companions, Vrask replied. Weak mammals do not bond with creatures that fight like that. I want to know what kind of world produces both these soft humans and that monster. He paused, watching Brutus attack his warriors again in the footage. I want to know what Earth is. 3 weeks passed before Brutus could walk without limping. The wounds healed faster than Rachel expected, though she should not have been surprised. Honey badgers recovered from injuries that would kill most animals. She had read about badgers surviving snake bites that contained enough venom to kill 10 men. Danny stayed by his side the entire time, sleeping on the floor of the medical bay and feeding Brutus by hand when the badger was too weak to eat on his own. The other colonists brought gifts and treats for both of them, though Brutus only accepted food from Danny. Captain Harris spent those weeks trying to make sense of what happened. The Talon had retreated. A species that ruled through fear and violence had backed down from a colony ship full of refugees because one small animal refused to quit fighting. We got lucky, Harris said to Rachel during one of his visits to check on Brutus. If they come back with more ships, we're finished. Maybe, Rachel replied, watching Brutus carefully eat pieces of meat from Danny's hand. Or maybe they won't come back at all. Harris wanted to believe that, but 30 years of military service before he became a colony captain taught him that predators always came back. He ordered the ship's minimal weapons to be upgraded with whatever they could manage and put everyone through basic combat training. 2 weeks later, the sensors detected another ship. The colonists rushed to battle stations, their hearts pounding with fear. They had survived one encounter with the Talon. They would not survive another. But the approaching vessel was smaller and moved differently. It sent a communication request before getting too close, which the Talon had not bothered doing. This is Captain Harris of the Wanderer's Hope. Identify yourself. The face that appeared on the screen was not reptilian. It looked almost amphibian, with smooth blue-green skin and large eyes that blinked sideways. Captain Harris, I am Ambassador Lyresh of the Galactic Coalition. We come in peace and friendship. May we approach? Harris glanced at his crew, seeing his own confusion reflected on their faces. What is the Galactic Coalition? An alliance of peaceful species who have suffered under Talon aggression for many decades. We heard about your encounter with Commander Vrask. We want to help you. How did you hear about that? Lyresh's wide mouth curved in what might have been a smile. The Talon spread word quickly when something frightens them. The story of the Deathworlder ship that fights with monsters has traveled to 17 systems already. Deathworlder. Harris had never heard the term before. Permission to dock granted. But keep your weapons powered down. An hour later, Ambassador Lyresh stood in the Wanderer's Hope's conference room along with Captain Harris and a dozen other colonists, including Rachel and Danny. Brutus sat at Danny's feet, fully healed now, watching the alien visitor with cautious eyes. Lyresh could not stop staring at the honey badger. This is the creature that attacked Vrask's warriors? This is Brutus, Danny said, putting a protective hand on the badger's head. He was protecting me. Protecting, Lyresh repeated softly. The Talon said you kept battle companions. We did not understand what that meant until now. The ambassador looked at Rachel. You bond with predators? We bond with lots of animals, Rachel explained. Dogs, cats, horses, birds. Humans have lived alongside other species for thousands of years. They're not just pets. They're family. Lyresh sat down slowly, as if the information was too much to process while standing. The Coalition has been trying to resist the Talon for 73 years. We have better technology. We have more ships. But we cannot match their aggression. They are a predator species. Violence is their nature. And your prey species, Harris guessed. Yes, our evolution followed different paths. We developed intelligence and cooperation instead of claws and teeth. The Talons see us as weak. Rachel leaned forward. But humans are predators too. At least we used to be. We evolved as persistent hunters on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Earth, Lyresh said, pulling up a data display. We researched your homeworld after hearing about the incident. Your planet is classified as a Class 9 death world. Only 3 other known species evolved on worlds that hostile. The display showed Earth in comparison to other inhabited planets. The data was shocking. Earth had more active volcanoes, stronger storms, deeper oceans, and more apex predators than any other world that produced intelligent life. Death world means dangerous, Lyresh explained. Most intelligent species evolved on worlds with minimal threats. Safe places where cooperation and intelligence were enough to survive. Your world had megafauna that hunted you, whether that could kill you. Plants and animals that were toxic. Your oceans contained predators larger than our ships. Danny raised his hand like he was in class. So Earth made humans tough? Earth made humans adaptable, Lyresh corrected gently. You learned to survive anywhere. You learned to work together. And most remarkably, you learned to make allies of the other predators who shared your world. The ambassador gestured to Brutus. Honey badgers are famous now. The Talon research teams found videos from Earth showing these creatures fighting off multiple lions, digging through concrete, and surviving bites from the most venomous snakes on your planet. They found records of honey badgers breaking into human settlements and escaping from secure enclosures repeatedly. They're escape artists, Rachel admitted, and they never give up on anything. The Talon are terrified, Lyresh said simply. Not the honey badger, specifically. They're terrified because you bonded with it. They're asking themselves what kind of species makes friends with something that fearless and that aggressive. What other companions do you have? Harris saw where this was going. You want our help against the Talon. We want to offer you alliance and protection, Lyresh said. The Coalition will guarantee your colony rights to any world you choose. We'll provide resources and technology. In return, we ask only that you share what you know about human-animal bonds and perhaps help us understand what it means to be a Death Worlder. You want us to teach you how to fight, Rachel said. No. Lyresh's large eyes were sincere. We want you to teach us how to survive. 5 months after the incident with the Talon, the Wanderer's Hope entered orbit around a world the Coalition had designated for human settlement. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents that reminded everyone of Earth before the collapse. Danny pressed his face against the viewport, watching clouds swirl over the new world. Brutus stood on his back legs with his paws on the window, making huffing sounds that meant he was interested or excited. We're really home, Danny said. Rachel put her hand on his shoulder. We're really home. The orbital space around their new planet was crowded. 7 Coalition species had sent ships to welcome the humans and witness their arrival. News of the Death Worlders who bonded with battle companions had spread far beyond the 17 systems Ambassador Lyresh mentioned. Everyone wanted to meet the species that made the Talon retreat. Captain Harris received communication requests from dozens of ambassadors and leaders. The Coalition wanted to formalize their alliance. Scientists wanted to study human relationships with animals. Military advisors wanted to understand how humans approach conflict. It's overwhelming, Harris admitted to Rachel during the descent to the surface. They're treating us like we're something special. We're just refugees trying to survive. Maybe that's what makes us special, Rachel replied. We survived Earth. We survived the Talon. We did it by working together and never giving up. The landing site was in a valley surrounded by mountains, near a river that would provide fresh water for the colony. Coalition construction teams had already built basic shelters and infrastructure using their advanced technology. What would have taken the colonists years to build was finished in weeks. Danny was one of the first to step on his solid ground, and Brutus jumped down beside him immediately. The honey badger sniffed the air, taking in a sense of this new world. Then he waddled off to investigate a nearby tree, already claiming this territory as his own. The formal welcome ceremony happened 3 days later. Representatives from all 7 Coalition species attended, along with their various companions and assistants. They gathered in the new community center, which was really just a large building with chairs and tables. Ambassador Lyresh introduced each species to Captain Harris and the human delegation. There were the amphibian-like Naresh, the crystalline Voth, who communicated through light patterns, the massive but gentle Cormand, who looked like walking trees. Each had evolved on safe worlds where predators were rare and cooperation was the norm. And these are humans, Lyresh said, gesturing to Harris and his group. Survivors of Earth. The first Death World species to join the Coalition. One of the Naresh scientists raised a tentacle nervously. Is it true you brought your predator companions with you? We brought our friends, Rachel corrected gently. Would you like to meet some of them? She signaled to the colonists waiting outside. They entered with their animals, and the alien representatives backed away instinctively. Dogs of various breeds walked calmly beside their humans. Cats prowled through the room with typical feline confidence. A barn owl named Whisper sat on her handler's arm, her large eyes taking in everything, and Danny walked in with Brutus. The honey badger drew every eye in the room. He was the most famous animal in the galaxy now, though he had no idea. Brutus just stayed close to Danny, occasionally looking at the aliens with mild interest. They're so calm, a Voth representative said through their translator. We expected them to attack. Why would they attack? Danny asked, confused. You're not threatening me. That simple statement seemed to shock the aliens more than anything. A cormorant elder leaned forward, branches creaking. The animal protects you because you are threatened, not because you command it. I don't command Brutus, Danny explained. He's my friend. Friends protect each other. Harris watched the aliens process this information. They had trouble understanding the concept because it was so foreign to their experience. Their worlds had never forced them to develop such bonds. They had never needed to. Earth sounds like a nightmare world, one of the Naresh said quietly. It was hard, Rachel admitted, but it taught us important things. It taught us to adapt, to work together, to respect the other creatures that shared our world because they were just as tough as we were. The Talon are tough, Lyresh pointed out. They evolved as apex predators, but they used their strength to dominate and destroy. That's the difference, Harris said, finally understanding what made humans unique in galactic terms. We learned to be strong by making connections, not by breaking them. Earth was brutal, so we needed allies. We domesticated wolves, and they became dogs. We partnered with horses for transportation. We learned from every animal we met. He gestured to Brutus, who was letting a curious cormorant child gently touch his fur. Honey badgers never gave up, so we learned persistence. Wolves worked in packs, so we learned teamwork. Birds could fly, so we built machines to follow them. Earth taught us that survival meant adaptation and alliance. The Talon respect only strength, Lyresh said, but you have shown them a different kind of strength, one they don't understand. Over the following weeks, more human colony ships arrived, each bringing their own refugees and animals. The coalition provided worlds and resources for all of them. In return, humans began sharing what they knew. Military advisors learned about determination and never surrendering, concepts that prey species found difficult. Scientists studied human-animal bonds, amazed at how different species could communicate and cooperate. Engineers discovered that human adaptability led to innovative solutions that specialized species never considered. And everywhere humans went, they brought their companions. Dogs helped with search and rescue operations. Cats controlled pest populations on coalition space stations. Horses provided therapy for traumatized refugees. Even birds found roles as messengers and scouts. The galaxy was changing because humans refused to face challenges alone. 6 months after landing, Danny sat by the river with Brutus, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. The honey badger was doing what he loved best, digging a hole for no reason other than the joy of digging. Rachel found them there and sat down beside her son. Happy? Yeah, Danny said. Brutus likes it here. What about you? I like it too. But Mom, do you think we'll see the Talon again? Rachel considered the question carefully. Maybe, but if we do, they'll remember what happened. They'll remember that humans don't give up, and they'll remember Brutus. As if hearing his name, the honey badger stopped digging and looked up at them. Dirt covered his face and paws, and he looked absolutely content. Good boy, Danny said, scratching behind Brutus's ears. You saved everyone. Brutus made a huffing sound and went back to digging. He had no concept of being a galactic legend. He only knew that Danny was safe, the food was good, and there was fresh earth to dig in. That was enough for any honey badger. And maybe, Rachel thought, watching the sunset over their new home, that simple, fierce loyalty was exactly what the galaxy needed to learn.